When you think about the Johto region and its post-game, it isn't sadness that comes to mind. In fact, just like with the main game, the word that mostly comes to me is nostalgia. Johto has a way to be nostalgic without you having a single memory of it, and Kanto is always going to be Kanto. The region that, as much as we say that we're tired of it, we will play it nonetheless whenever it comes around. But without saying a word, the Gen 2 version of the Kanto region 3 years after the events of the original games, well, it tells you a very sad tale. It shows you how depressing the world can be. So hey, I'm not so a stranger, and how? Let's get into it. Generally speaking, Pokemon games are happy games. You do have sad moments, don't get me wrong. Not even the Pokemon world is all Solgaleo and Ho-Oh. Moments like Arven's Mabosstiff storyline in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, Cubone's Ghost Mother in Kanto games, especially how it was done in Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, Lily leaving for the Kanto region to seek help from Bill in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, or more recently than all of those, the death of AZ in Pokemon Legends ZA. You even have touching moments like AZ's reunion with his Floette after 3,000 years of roaming the world all by himself, and also building another weapon, which is not the kind of thing you keep to yourself when you tell your story, like when we met him in Pokemon X and Y. But generally speaking, they are happy games. You start a journey that ends with you becoming the champion, and anything or anyone that gets in your way, well, they get wrecked by a team of 6. It is like that nowadays, and it was like that when we were just children mashing the A button. But as they say, the devil is in the details, and well, the Kanto region of Gen 2 has pretty depressing details. First, we need to talk about storytelling. There are many ways to tell a story other than outright say the things you want people to know and notice. All those examples I gave of sad moments from Arven's Mabosstiff to AZ's death are moments you are supposed to notice and hold an important place when it comes to the story of their respective games. But sometimes there are things that are not as easily noticeable, but were deliberate details that develop a character or a world in a much more discreet way. A great example of gameplay or mechanical storytelling is Silver's Crobat. Silver, our rival in the Gen 2 games, spends the whole game acting as if Pokemon are simply tools for him to use, but slowly his character develops as we face each other and as we face Team Rocket. Eventually, his Golbat is no longer a Golbat but actually a Crobat. Because Crobat is only attainable through high friendship, Silver having this Pokemon is a subtle way of showing us that he has indeed grown to love his Pokemon. The opposite happens with Ghetsis in Black and White 2, where his Hydreigon has Frustration, a move that is at its most powerful the weaker the bond you have with the Pokemon. In fact, in Black and White, Hydreigon alone can basically beat Ant's whole team moveset-wise, hinting that Ghetsis was ready to stab the boy in the back in case needed. This story is told without saying a word about it. Another way to hint at a story or to tell a story without outright saying it is through the use of environmental storytelling. In this case, it isn't the gameplay mechanics that tell that story, but the actual world itself. Things are organized or designed in the way, visually and auditorily, that hint or tell you a story about the place or the world itself, about the state of that place, about the things that happen in that place without outright just saying them. Good examples of this are places like the Pokemon Mansion, where they don't outright tell you what happened there once you get in, but the whole place is in disarray, abandoned, the music is eerie, and there are notes that, while hinting at the reason, do not straight up tell it to you. You have to find all of them, you have to go through more of that mansion in disarray. The same happens in the old chateau, for example. You enter that place and through the overall look of it, the ghostly apparitions and the music, you can't go wrong with thinking that that place is surely haunted. See, Mauville shows you the failure of progress without outright telling it to you. Just like the ruins of All for Solace in Ruins, show you that there is a past in the Pokemon world with many mysteries to uncover, even if you cannot uncover any of them. Or, for example, the radio only playing a high-pitched screech in Mogami Town, Route 43 and the Lake of Rage, showing you that something is messing up the radio waves, which, as we come to find out, meant Team Rocket was on the case right there. There are more ways to tell a story, of course, but these two examples are great ways to show you how Pokemon does it very often without outright just putting it in a text box. And well, my examples are examples of environmental storytelling that show you how Kanto changed from Gen 1 to Gen 2, but do it in a more subtle way, a way that shows you how depressing it is. We can't deny the changes in the Kanto region of Gen 1 to the Kanto region in Gen 2. Some of them are easy to notice, like the gym leaders having new teams showing their growth, or simply being different ones like Blue in Viridian City taking the place of Giovanni, or Janine taking the place of her father, the new Elite Four member Koga. The power plant is now back on because of the magnet train, showing you the rehabilitation of a formerly abandoned building. Or there not being a Cinnabar Island anymore because of a volcanic eruption, showing you that nature will not take no for an answer. Some things also don't really change, like the old man in a Machop that really failed to build anything in Vermilion City. But then there's these two situations, the Pokemon Tower and this pond right here in Celadon City. We know that Kanto is progress and Johto is tradition. We know that while Johto holds on to myths and legends of its region, Kanto has absolutely none. Even the Sevi Islands, which are sometimes referred to as part of the Kanto region, don't really explore any form of lore besides the Denobi ruins. But then there's the Pokemon Tower, a building that is very likely one of the oldest in the Kanto region and that holds a little of its tradition. It tells you how Kanto deals with the loss of Pokemon, how Kanto grieves. Lavender Town is already a tremendous example of environmental storytelling through sound. You feel the ghosts in that place simply by listening to its creepypasta-inspiring music, and the role of death in that city has the 7-story tower as illustration. However, in Gen 2, the Pokemon Tower is no longer the Pokemon Tower. It is now the Radio Tower. A place that used to have its slogan be, "May the souls of Pokemon rest easy" or "Be calm the spirits of Pokemon," now has the slogan of "Your favorite programs on air." And now, those souls all rest in the House of Memories, a small building just south of what used to be the only piece of lore or history in the Kanto region. And after talking about the tower, you're probably wondering about the little pond, and well, it is so simple, but you would only know if you went there. Yet, it is the perfect showing of how this progress not only destroys the lore of Kanto, but also the environment itself. Celadon City doesn't change much from Gen 1 to Gen 2. Buildings look different, but nothing major. That is, until we decide to use surf or fish in that pond right in the middle. In the Gen 1 remakes, you have a 1% chance of finding a Koffing while surfing or fishing for a Grimer. This shows that pollution exists, which, well, makes sense, you are in the city. But it's still not over the top. In Gen 2 though, only Grimer and Muck show up in that pond, telling you that pollution has taken over the little bit of nature inside of the big city of Celadon. In fact, even the Safari Zone being replaced with the Paul Park in the most recent Kanto canon, the one in HeartGold and SoulSilver, means that what once was an effort for the conservation of rare species of Pokemon became just a catching show. That is why, hidden in the nostalgic fun of visiting Kanto once again and the thrill of defeating not only the gym leaders of the Johto region but also the gym leaders of the Kanto region, hides the depressing truth that Kanto is forgetting itself. The Johto Post Game, in its silent storytelling, shows you that behind the awesome adventure lies the sadness of a region that needs to reconnect with the natural world and, above all, needs to find itself once again, needs to reclaim its lore and its history. But what about you? Did you notice these things in the post-game of the Johto games? And do you know more examples of awesome storytelling in Pokemon games? Let me know in the comments down below. And now, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. But before I go, I want to thank my YouTube members Good Old Deo, Dash Plays, The Gavanator, and Attila Santo, and my Twitch subscribers and newbies here, the Dr. Joe, Teixeira23, Lazarix, and Odd Cypher for going the extra mile. Thank you so much for all of your support.